8th of December 2021.
Ashes is probably the most prestigious series.
We're going to be the freshest England team ever to an Ashes series.
It's going to be a great series, very competitive.
From news.com.au.
I'm Andrew Bucklow, and I've got news for you. Well, one of the greatest rivalries in world sport continues today, with Australia taking on England in the first Ashes test in Brisbane. Now, if you're not really sure why it's called the Ashes or why this cricket series is so bloody important to so many Aussies and Poms, stick around. We have got a brief explainer to get you up to speed. And we're also going to be joined by Brett Lee, one of the best bowlers to have ever played the game. He'll reveal what it's like to play in an Ashes series and what really goes on in the dressing rooms. Brett's also going to open up about the brutal prank that his teammates played on him when he first made it into the Aussie side.
So my career could have been over before it even started, and got up and nearly tripped over, and it was almost like welcome. So that was like the initiation in the Australian cricket team.
All right, joining me now is news.com.au sports editor James Matthey. James, let's start with the history of the Ashes. Give me a crash course.
Well, Bucky, 1800s, to cast your mind all the way back then when you were just coming out of the womb, judging by your hair colour. So basically, Australia beat England for the first time on English soil. We're talking 1880s here. And the Times, the newspaper over there, ran an obituary for English cricket. Oh. They said they'd cremate the body of English cricket and the Ashes will be taken to Australia, given to Australia. And that's how the sort of term came about. And then there's, you go back to folklore that the English captain at the time, Ivo Bligh, later received, the burnt ashes of a bale used in a cricket game that he vowed to go to Australia on the next tour, win the cricket, take the ashes back to England, take the little urn back to England as well. So he got presented with a little urn with those bale ashes even.
So now we kind of play for this replica of that. The original Ashes are kept at Lord's, is that right? And now we play for this little brown trophy that's meant to represent the Ashes.
Yep. So the original urn is kept in the museum at Lord's, famous cricket ground in London over there. And you'll see the winning captain at the end of this series will hold up a little urn, but that's just a replica.
All right, so the Ashes are played every couple of years. Who's in front overall?
It's pretty tight. We got Australia 33, plays England 32. So that's how many series wins there have been, not matches, that's series. And there's been a few drawn series in there as well.
So the first test kicks off today in Brisbane. Who are the favourites going into it?
Well, despite putting themselves on the back foot by not selecting myself, Australia are still favourites. They've got a really good record in Brisbane. I mean, they lost there last summer for the first time in a long time, but Australia's still favourites. Home soil, Steve Smith, David Warner are the star batsmen, and Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood are the quicks, so they'll be expecting to do most of the work.
And we won the last Ashes series, didn't we?
It was a draw in 2019, 2-2, but because Australia won the series before then, we retained the Ashes.
Okay, so they're kind of ours to lose at the moment. What are the big talking points going into today's game?
Well, big news yesterday, actually. England fast bowler James Anderson ruled out of the first test match. That's a big one for England. On the Australian side, it's all about Pat Cummins. He's the new captain. Can a fast bowler captain a side when he's thinking about bowling, field changes, getting tired from doing all that? Obviously, Tim Payne has stepped down after his misuse of a phone a little while ago. So
wow,
Pat Cummins
misuse of a phone. That's the nicest way I've heard anyone describe a sexting scandal.
Well, I mean, people enough were kind to describe mine like that one day, so I thought I'd return the favour.
Okay, so this is the first of 5 Ashes tests, is that correct?
Yep, there's a five-match series. Obviously, Perth, they lost their right to host this summer because of their crazy border restrictions. So
sucked in, Mark McGowan.
4 tests are locked in, and their Cricket Australia is still weighing up where to play the 5th and final test in January.
Now, 2 things before I let you go. Firstly, who do you think will win? And I just want to preface this with, I asked you this question before the T20 Cricket World Cup, and you said Australia had no chance at all of doing well. We went on to win that. So, who do you think will win the Ashes, James Matthey?
As I told you about the World Cup prediction, I was drunk when I gave that. I think Australia. Australia has to win. England's batting is too brittle. Australians' bowling's too good. And if Steve Smith and David Warner score enough runs, Australia 3-1. Let's go.
Ooh, look out. And another thing, you didn't want to do this break without us playing this audio. It was an iconic moment from Channel 10 News a couple of years ago where a male host and a female host were chatting about the Ashes. Have a listen to the interaction.
And England skipper Andrew Strauss arrived in London, proudly showing off the little urn. They'll spend 4 days at home before flying out for the World Cup. And Belinda, I just can't understand how something so small can be So impressive.
Well, Mark, you would know about that.
Classic dick joke to finish on. Always highbrow with James Matthey. Thanks for the chat.
Thanks for the backhanded compliment.
Brett Lee played 76 test matches for Australia and took 310 wickets before hanging up his baggy green in 2008.
Out, caught behind. An absolute storming delivery from Brett Lee.
And Brett joins me now. Thanks for coming on. I've got news for you.
How are you, Bucky?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Now tell me, what's bigger for an Aussie cricketer, winning an Ashes series or winning a World Cup?
Oh, good question. Probably growing up, for me, it was about playing in an Ashes series, wearing the baggy green cap. So I have to say winning an Ashes series, definitely.
Where have you got your baggy green now?
It's in a safe at home. I won't tell you where because I don't want no one to go and tax it. But look, to me, that was the sort of cream of the crop. You know, when you think about, a youngster growing up, or me personally, I knew at the age of 9 I wanted to play for Australia. I told Mum and Dad, I said I want to get the baggy green cap and bowl 160 Ks. So to finally get that baggy green cap was an absolute dream. I wanted to sleep in it the first night, but I thought if it's crushed, it wouldn't look that good on TV.
I've been to a few Ashes tests over the years. One of the highlights for me is watching the Barmy Army, which is the British group of supporters. They come up with amusing, albeit rather abusive songs, which they sing all day long. Did they ever write one about you?
They did, and I found out the other day, I heard it for the first time actually. It was something on the lines of keep your arms straight, keep your arms straight, keep your arms straight when you bowl. And then they would go, no ball, every time. So all I'd hear is no ball, and I'd probably get frustrated listening to it over in England in 2001. I actually didn't know how to take the Barmy Army, to be honest. So I thought,
is that right?
Yeah, I probably wasn't a fan at first, but over the years, and certainly when I went back in 2005, I love the Barmy Army. I love what they stand for. I think they're fantastic for cricket. Great bunch of guys and girls. They go hard, though. They go real hard on the squirt.
Why did you not like them at first? Was it because they were distracting you from the side of the pitch?
Yeah, probably. I just didn't really know how to take them. And like a lot of players, I guess, a lot of cricketers, when they are young and a bit green, a bit wet behind the ears, they don't really understand that it's all tongue-in-cheek. Don't take it personally, have some thick skin. But it's hard to say that when you're in your early 20s.
Well, speaking of sledging, some of the players from overseas often say that the Aussies are the most vicious sledgers in the world.
Really? See, we actually call it gamesmanship.
Gamesmanship, okay.
Just sounds better than sledging. But no, it's sledging. Of course it is.
I'm wondering, did you guys kind of prepare sledges for each player before a series would start, or did you just come up with it off the top of your head?
It's got to be off the cuff. I mean, sledging has to be come from the heart. It's got to be quick-witted. It's got to be spur of the moment. I reckon the best sledge I ever heard, or one of the best sledges, I've heard a few. I've had a few thrown at me. I've heard, a couple of colleagues being sledged on and off the field, but it was a grade game actually in Sydney grade cricket, and it's one of those days that it's washed on. The rain's falling, you're on, you're off type of thing. You can't find any momentum. So someone in our team, in our first grade team, said, let's come up with what we believe is the ugliest cricketer in Australian cricket currently. So whether it's first class cricket or even grade cricket, so we're going through what they thought was their ugliest 11. Anyway, so we get back on, batsman comes out, takes centre, he scratches his crease. My mate at first slip goes, hey champ, we've just come up with our ugliest 11, and mate, looking at you right now through your lid helmet, you are captain of our ugly 11. He turned around and said, oh really? Well, I can see your missus on the hill, mate, she's batting 3. True story.
It's
quick, it's brilliant.
Take me back to when you were playing the Ashes. What's it like on game day? What time are you getting up?
Well, most importantly, you want to try and tell yourself that it's just another game. But deep down it's not.
Okay.
It's the Ashes.
Yep.
Routine for me was very, very important. So, getting up the same time in the morning, having the same structure, get down the pool, hop in, get the legs moving. And that would sort of increase and be a fraction earlier if I've bowled more. So, for example, when I get a good night's rest before the first day, because, you should wake up nice and fresh. Your legs, haven't had a lot of work over the last 24 hours. I generally like to take off the day before a big, call it the Boxing Day test, Christmas, we wouldn't train, have it off. Just get some real good hydration in, get all the right food in, and then get the sleep, because I can sleep. If you ask me to go to sleep right now, I could sleep for 8 hours on the floor here. I sleep on aeroplanes. I'm very lucky. So getting in the right amount of rest was very, very important. And as the game went on, it might be 15 minutes extra in the pool each morning, making sure, because, if you bowl 20 overs in the heat, say we're at, Melbourne, it can be quite humid down there. You sort of, your legs can be taxed. So to me, it was just making sure that I had the right structure in place. But then it's the hype. You're playing the Ashes. This is the most important part of, the Test series that we can play. It's the old enemy. It's the history of the game. We're playing against England. This is incredible. So you got to be careful when you're on the bus going to the ground, the little minibuses that we catch, that you don't expel all that energy too early, too soon. You don't run the race before you're out on the ground. So it's having that excitement, but containing it. But when you're ready to bowl the first ball, you're 100%.
Was there a type of music or a song that you would listen to pump you up before the game?
Oh, mate, I'd have all the classics on. I'd be, listening to Noiseworks and the Bon Jovi, Chisel, In Excess. And you'd see someone like a Mitchell Johnson, and he'd be over there and he'd just be like, and in my opinion, I thought he was listening to Mozart or Tchaikovsky or Beethoven. And you'd take his headset off and he's listening to Slipknot. But it's just like he's just in the trance, and everyone was different, so it was quite funny. Over the years, you'd have, different players, and you'd put the rock box on, as we called it, and there would be Slipknot to Bon Jovi to Backstreet Boys to Chisel to Noiseworks. So, yeah, and then obviously to John Williamson if Tugger was playing. So it's a lot of fun.
One thing that fascinates me about Test matches is that you get a 40-minute lunch break. Now, do you go to the same dining room as the English players?
We do.
Is that ever awkward?
Well, it is if you've bounced the guy the last ball before lunch and you've sledged him and you're walking off and, you're trying to, you can go first on the chicken parmigiana, sir, type of thing, But we're all adults and, when you're off the field, you're off the field. And
you mentioned chicken parmies there. Was there a dish served in one of the dining rooms around the world that was just like the best for you?
Adelaide. Adelaide.
What was it?
Okay, so if you ask me what is the best thing about playing at the Adelaide Oval, I'll give you a scenario that is just top shelf. Call it day 2. We've bowled England out, first session of the second morning. Got them out for, say, 250 odd, which gives us hopefully 2 days of batting or a day and a half of batting. We go into Adelaide at lunch, plum chicken, and absolutely load up on the plum chicken. It's so good. However, we were disappointed and shattered if we had to go in there and we had to bowl 40 minutes later. Very small portion because you don't want to run in with 3 or 4 chooks in your guts.
All right, I've got some rapid-fire questions because in addition to being one of the greats yourself, you got to play with some of the most legendary Aussie players of all time. So I'm just going to throw a question at you. You just tell me which name pops into your head.
Try.
Who was the funniest teammate that you ever had?
Andrew Simons.
Ooh, who was the grumpiest?
Glenn McGrath.
Which player loved to get their kid off in the dressing room the most?
Probably Warney.
Oh, no, that's a bad mental image. I'm sure plenty of ladies have seen it. Who was the most annoying to be around?
Annoying / funniest would have to be McGrath. He's an absolute, takes the mickey out of everyone. He's a class clown, but he's such a great guy. But yeah, he's always very, very, very funny.
And who was the loosest unit?
Loosest unit? No one was really loose in the... Nah, probably, Simo, Andrew Simons was just, he's just a free spirit. So, but, you need those characters in the game, definitely.
Totally. I assume that every now and then you do sportsman's nights. What's your go-to story that always kills it at the crowd?
Probably tell the stories about sledging, some funny moments in the change room. I always go back to my first test, and it involved Adam Gilchrist and McGrath. So I was sitting between the guys. I'm super nervous playing my first test, super anxious to get out there. So Gilly's just like, he is eyeballing me saying, mate, just go out there. You've done all the hard work. just enjoy yourself. And I'm like listening, going, yeah, trying to take it all in, not knowing that he's keeping eye contact. So someone was down beside me. McGrath tied my shoelaces together.
Oh, no.
So my career could have been over before it even started, and got up and nearly tripped over, and it was almost like welcome. So that was like the initiation in the Australian cricket team.
You've just launched a new podcast called the Brett Lee Podcast, aptly named. Can you tell me about that?
Look, it's a podcast that is about the Ashes that I'd probably say that it involves cricket. It's not all about cricket. It involves cricket. We obviously cover the big topics. The news, all the different headlines that have been happening throughout the last sort of 24, 48 hours. That's the greatest thing about doing a podcast, is that we do it, it's up within the space of a couple of minutes. And I guess using our contacts throughout, who myself and my co-host Brad McNamara, so a former New South Wales cricketer and executive producer at Fox Sports, one of the funniest guys you'll ever meet. Him and I just bounce off each other. We get some musicians on, we get some different talent from around the world, some people that are very high up in sort of news and politics and what it might be. So it's a combination of, I guess, cricket, sport in general, but also, the different walks of life. And, we both love music, both playing a band together. So we try and have a bit of fun with it as well.
And finally, yes or no, is Australia going to retain the Ashes?
Of course.
That's what I was hoping you'd say. Brett Lee, thanks for taking the time to chat.
Good on you, mate.
We'll keep you up to date on all the Ashes news and the latest scores at news.com.au. That's it for today's episode of I've Got News for You. Thanks for listening, and I might just head off and go Google a recipe for plum chicken. See ya.